pledge.
Sure. Okay. And, ready again.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, thank you. Madam Secretary, we have roll call.
Thank you, Mr. President. Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 6, Audrey Miller.
Here.
Division 5, Robert Paris.
Here.
Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Division 1, Drew Mercy.
Here.
Division 3, Frank Donato. Division 4, George Lane.
Here.
General Manager Knutson.
Here.
General Counsel Kim.
Here.
And Holly Hughes present.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Frank. I'm in.
Thank you, Director Donato.
Before, we always like to welcome anybody to listen in and participate around the questions or comments, but somebody's listening in, you'd like to hear from them.
Hi, this is John Joyce reporting for the Acton Agua Dulce News in print and online.
Again, thank you. We're just looking at that in the paper.
Vincent Dino, Palmdale Water District.
Welcome.
John Eucasted, AV Mutual Group.
Welcome, John.
Hi, Keith.
Okay, moving on to item number 5, public comments. Read open to the public. Anyone who wish to address the board? You can do so now, or it's on the agenda item, do it a little later. Okay, hearing comments this time, we'll on to item number 6, adoption of the agenda. Motion will be in order.
Mr. President, this is Rob. I move we adopt the agenda.
Motion by Director Parrish,
I will second Director Miller.
second by Director Miller. Full discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Roll call. It's roll call.
Have to do roll call, Mr. President.
Roll call.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Drew Mercy.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Item number 7, the consent calendar. We have 2 items: approval of the minutes on May 23rd, and adopt resolution for the joint tax sharing resolution for the county subdivision district. Those are pretty self-explanatory, but if there's no questions on that, motion would be on.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent calendar.
Director Dias,
Mercy, second.
Director Mercy. Any discussion? Not all in favor, Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Drew Mercy.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Moving along, and bring us to item number 8, and we have very important items for the Finance Committee. And Greg, did you want to go?
Yeah, I can go ahead. I'm fine. Okay, so item 8A1, this consideration and possible action to accept and file the check registry listed June 15th to the 29th, and our general manager will go over the registry.
All right. Good evening. Thank you, Director Donato. So on page 20 of your agenda packet is the beginning of the checklist. And as Director Donato mentioned, it covers the period of June 15th through June 29th. We went through this in detail with the Finance Committee late last week. And I just wanted to point out to the board, item number 1 on that first page of the checklist is a pretty substantial payment to DWR just under $2.7 million. And this is for variable transportation costs associated with moving water during the month of May to the AVAC service area, the various turnouts. So there's delivery of just over 10,000 acre feet during the month of May. So most of that is being Article 21 water, but it still carries that variable cost of roughly $260 per acre foot.
Well, hopefully we can recuperate.
We will at some point, yep. And everything else is pretty routine, but we're happy to answer any questions that the board may have on any of the remaining items. Yep.
Would you want a motion?
I think a motion would be in order.
Okay, yeah, this is Director Donato. So I move on 8A1 that we accept the check register from June 15th to June 29th.
Motion by Director Donato, second by
Mr. President, this is Rob. I'll second the motion.
Director Paris. This is no further discussion. All, second.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes, motion carried.
Okay, that brings us to 8A2, and this is consider possible action on the Moss screen repair at the West Water Bank for $33,056.80. And our operations manager, John Bozigan, is going to give us an overview.
Thank you, Director. Good evening, everybody. So we have 5 POs over $25,000 tonight that we're going to bring to the board. We went over them with the Finance Committee in pretty good detail. The first one is the Moss screen at the Fairmont Turnout. That's where the west feeder starts. We had some unexpected damage. Some of the welds came apart on that screen and caused some pretty significant damage to it. So during the time that it was out, we couldn't water bank to our full capacity. So we thought this is a pretty time-sensitive project. So we had International Water Screens come out, pull the screen, make the repair in their shop, and get it back in within 1 week. They kind of pushed everybody else off so they could do this. We told them it was an emergency. So that was, like Frank said, $33,056.80, included all the labor, all the materials, crane service, everything, turnkey. So each one of these has a board order, I noticed, so we'll have to.
A question of legal counsel. Do these be done separately or can they be done in one?
I think it's separate.
Separately?
Yes.
Okay, go for the discussion on that item. Motion will be in order.
Mr. President, this is Rob. I move approval of Board Order 882. I'll second the motion.
Motion on the second. Director Paris, Director Dias. Secretary, then the roll call.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato, George Lane.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Thank you. Brings us to A3.
Okay, these next 4 projects were board-approved asset replacement projects, and they're all pump rebuilds and/or repairs. We sent out requests to several pump companies. Brax Process and Control was the only one that responded, the only one that had the scheduling and the manpower to do these jobs. So we did have to get them done. So we went with Brax, who's done a lot of pump work for AVEC in the past. The first one is the Willow Pump Station. That's on Munns Ranch Road. That pumps raw water up over the hill to Lake Elizabeth Mutual Water Company, and they in turn have a little treatment plant, and they feed it to the customers out in Lake Elizabeth. So this is a 100 horsepower pump, and we budgeted $50,000 for this repair. and it came in at $31,138.26.
There's no further questions from, John, our manager, the motion will be in order.
Mr. President, this is Director Miller. I will move on 8A3.
I'll second it.
The motion and second. Nothing further, Madam Secretary, we're going to roll call.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. That brings us to 8-1.
Okay, this is the Acton Pump Station located on Sierra Highway. This takes water from our intertie with Palmdale Water District, pumps water about 400 feet up to the Vincent Hill tank, and from there, LA County District 37 retails it to the customers in Acton. So it's a 250 horsepower pump. There's 5 pumps out there. We've rebuilt 2 of them so far. This is our 3rd one. Budgeted $60,000, and the price came in at $45,489.58. Happy to answer any questions on any of these.
This Director Donato, I'll move on 8A4. That we approve the $45,489.58.
The motion from Director Donato. Need a second?
Director Mercy, second.
Director Mercy, you have a second? No further discussion, Madam Secretary?
I have a comment. I want to say congratulations, John. You saved the agency about $15,000 from what you were anticipating was going to cost.
No, thank you.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Oh, not again. Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, then I'm ready to do A5.
All right, the next one is Leona Valley Pump Station located on Goaty Hill Road, just south of Avenue N. This pumps water from our south feeder up over the hill to our Leona Valley customers, about another 300-foot lift or so, 400-foot lift. We have 5 pumps there. We've rebuilt 3 of them. This is the 4th one. And so I appreciate your congratulations on the other one. This one's not so good. We went a little over budget. Budgeted $50,000. This one came in at $55,881.55. A little higher than we anticipated, but there was a little more damage to this pump. So
I'll make a motion, we approve board order 885.
I'll second it.
Motion recognized. Director Donato, second. Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, that'll bring us down to A6.
all right, this is the last one. SNP North Pump Station located at the Rosamond Treatment Plant. This pumps water up to the Mojave Tank Farm. It's about a 300-foot lift. These pumps are huge, 800 horsepower pumps, 6,000 GPM. These pumps aren't that old. They're about 12, 13 years old. One of them developed a very bad vibration, and we budgeted $130,000 for this. We didn't know what was wrong with it. We assumed the worst. So Brax came, pulled it, and took it apart, and the damage wasn't as bad as we anticipated. So the final cost came in at $48,667.12. So we're well under budget on this one, which is good. So anyway, thank you.
Okay.
John, I had one question. Are we rebuilding, do we buy any new pumps at all, or we just rebuild everything?
These are able to, well, some of them, the Leona Valley pump, really everything had to be replaced except for the water box itself. But the rest of them are able to be rebuilt, and all the motors are able to be reconditioned except one of them had to be rewound. But yeah, if we can rebuild, if they're rebuildable, it's much cheaper. And if we think we can get another 10 years out of them, that's the way we go.
Good. Okay, yeah, thank you much, John. If there's no further questions, the motion will be in order.
Director Mercy, move approval of board order 886.
Director Mercy, the motion. Second?
And Director Miller will second.
And Director Miller, have a second. Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that,
Thanks, John.
finishes up our finance committee, unless there's any other questions or comments from directors.
Okay, that concludes my report.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Frank. We'll move on to item, personnel legal committee. That would be, Director Miller Paris.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was a very exciting personnel legal JPIA committee meeting that we had the other day. And now we're going to talk about approval of amendments to the employee handbook, and our human relations manager, Patty Rose, is going to present our amendments. Patty.
I'm going to try to go slow. I'm a fast talker, so I'm going to try to slow it down for you. Okay. So we have the employee handbook, and back in August of 2018, we had a brand new employee handbook reviewed and approved. And so it's been about 4 or 5 years, so we thought we needed to have it updated, have any amendments and laws, anything that needs to be changed, brought back to the board for updates. So the employee handbook is what the employees use for procedures, policies, code of conduct, and we go by state law, federal law, and we also have to go by some of the JPIA laws when it comes to benefits. And so those are some of the policies that we're going to look at tonight. Okay. So one of the first things we wanted to do with the policy book was we wanted to change the formatting of it to make it easier for both staff, the board, and when we have to send policies out to like the attorneys or other public agencies. So we went from a book style format that didn't have section numbers, just chapter numbers, and we put it into a memo type format. So when we start scrolling through, you'll see, Holly, if you want to go to the next slide. So having it in a memo style, we have a policy title, a policy number, there's sections. So each policy under that title can be sectioned out and called out if we need to do any type of policy change or, write-ups or anything like that. We have an approval date, which right now is the approval date of the whole book, effective date. And then if there's been a change, that approval date will change. Like the policies we're going to talk to tonight, if they're approved, that approval date will change to tonight's date. But all the other dates will stay to the date that originally was approved. And then, of course, it's approved by the board of directors. All policies are approved by the board. Okay. So I'll try, like I said, I'm a fast talker, so I'll try to take these a little slow. So we're going to look at the exact policies that are in the book, not so much as a PowerPoint. So the first one that we're going to look at is the definitions. And under the definitions, we needed to add the definition for designated person. The California Family Rights Act now calls out the title designated person, which is an individual related by blood or whose association with the employee is equivalent of a family member. And we're going to see this later on in the bereavement policy, and we'll also see it in anything under the Family Rights Act. Families, we have other relatives that we need to look at when it comes to especially bereavements. So that's the change that we'd like to propose for an addition to the definitions.
I know what you're saying. Can you elaborate? Because you didn't make any sense to me.
Okay. Well, we have to add to the definitions, designated persons, because that is a definition that the California Family Rights Act now uses when talking about bereavement. It's no longer just a blood relative, a parent, grandparent, or child. Now you can have a designated person, which might be a stepmother, it might be an aunt, it might be a grandparent that is second removed, like a step grandparent. It could be a foster parent. It could be, step brother, step sister, a family relation that is not a blood relation that took care of you.
I know, but I don't understand. What does that mean? What does that mean in the sense? Oh, you're saying that the employee. See, you're not defining it. Are you saying if anybody works for AVAC falls within those categories that they can take off from work with pay with one of those titles?
Yes. Yes, we'll see this definition used when we get down to the Bereavement Act.
Wait, the question I have is, who proves that? I mean, anybody can say they're one of those, what you just said, but who proves that?
The state law does give us the latitude of having the employee prove to us within 30 days of the death that the person is, number one, died. We cannot make them prove to us that they were part of that person's family, but we can also hold them to one bereavement per 365 days. So it's very sketchy. I know it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for everybody on this, but those are some of the latitudes the state did give when adding this designation.
Well, no, all I was asking was what the definition was, and when you presented it, it wasn't in that state until I brought it up. So you're saying one of our employees could say that they met somebody who's has not related in any way, that is their custodian person. Is that what you're saying?
It just says it has to be an individual related by blood or whose association with the employee is equivalent to a family member. I
just said that. You said blood, and then the thing I just said was by association. Okay, yes, that's what I was just trying to explain. I was asking, that means that they can say somebody that's 5 generations, not even related to them, they could put that person down that they are related under that definition.
Yes.
So
and we have to grant them bereavement time if they show us, if they can designate that person has passed away.
And how many months is that?
It's not months, it's only days.
How many days?
It's 3 days of bereavement, and then they're allowed to take 2 days of sick leave or unpaid leave.
Oh, it's 3 days. Okay.
Yeah, it's 3 days. Our policy has always been 3 days and 2 days sick leave. We've already covered that portion of it, but we do have to add in our definitions the designated person defined.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, and then the other one that we wanted to
wasn't that the easiest one we have to?
Oh, well, no.
Hey, Frank, I think it would also
I wish.
probably also include a significant other.
Significant others.
I think that was
stepchildren.
Kind of a focus, or stepchildren, or foster children, things like that.
Yes, I think that's basically what they're focusing on.
What is what's the definition of significant other?
A significant other is, I would probably say, it's somebody that.
That's not what I'm asking. What does the state define significant other?
Hey, Frank, I brought that up. I don't think I even know. I think I would say my girlfriend's a significant other. So if I were to put in for bereavement leave for her, I would expect that.
Well, let me ask you, Rob, is that your girlfriend from 10? Rob, is that your girlfriend from 10 years ago? That's what I'm trying to figure out what significant other means.
Yes, it is my girlfriend from 10 years ago because she's still my girlfriend. So
no. Not the one you have now. the one you had 10 years ago.
Now you're getting real personal.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't want to ask that. But I'm trying to get, I mean, you know, whatever we have to do as a board to help our employees is one thing. But nobody's given, I mean, you got to give me an answer. I mean, something that we know what we go by, because if let's say I'll give you an example. I was never married, okay? And I had a girlfriend, 10 years ago. Am I going to say that's my significant other?
How long have you known for?
No, I know that's true. How about Patty? How about one of your boyfriends back in high school, 30, 40 years ago? Is that your significant?
Dating a guy, so yeah, he's my significant other.
Is that your significant? No, the question is that your significant other? I want to know what the definition is. Okay, I've had enough of this. I mean, I'm throwing this out because, I mean, where does this thing end?
For the definitions.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so then under the term of standby time, we would like to adjust the on-call response time from 30 minutes to 60 minutes. With as big as our agency is and the area that we have to cover, it is pretty hard to get from one place, even from the east side of Lancaster to Quartz Hill some days can be longer than 30 minutes. So we would like to expand that time to 60 minutes. If that's agreeable to you. Any questions on that one?
What does that mean?
It means that if a gentleman is on standby time, if they're on standby and they get a call out from the plant, they have 60 minutes to respond to that call out instead of 30 minutes.
I have no problem with that.
Okay, great.
Where are we at with it?
We're now going to go to page 85, which is going to be the complaint process.
So is that put in there? So if somebody who's is on the list, John's list of standby, and they're like, all I do is pick up the phone and call you.
Right. The policy itself, well, the definition, this is just the definition.
The definition is wrong. I'm correcting the definition right now. Is it 60 minutes they have to respond by car or by phone call?
My understanding is it's currently 30 minutes to respond, and I'm assuming it is by car.
No, not assuming.
I understand. I'm going to ask
You can't
John.
assume. Patty, you cannot assume. This is very technical right now. We need to figure out, as a board, is it a phone call?
John says it is to report to work, which is by car.
Yeah,
Okay, then you know what? You need to put that in there. You need to put that in there.
That is in there, Frank. If you look at the standby time definition that we're modifying from 30 minutes to 60 minutes, the language is an employee to be available to report to work within 60 minutes.
We're actually, let's go to 60.
Okay. So let me ask you a question, Matt. Some people are on call, or electricians, whatever, that live in Tehachapi, that might have to go away to East Palmdale. And it's impossible unless they break the traffic laws.
Yeah, I mean, as Patty mentioned.
No, Matt, you heard what I just said? If
Yeah,
they break
I
the
did.
traffic laws under our scenario and they get in an accident and kill somebody, we're responsible because we did not change it.
So, I mean, as we know, right now it's 30 minutes.
That's stupid. I think that, I have no problem extending it to 60 minutes, but it needs to be defined that they physically have to be able to drive a car under current state laws, highway laws, to get to where we have to get them. If you got a person who's on, John puts a guy on standby that lives in Tehachapi to be there within 60 minutes over in Acton, it could be a problem. So
Yeah, I think maybe what we did, since this is just dealing with defining the terms of the employee manual. Maybe we could look at the policy related to standby time and being on call. And maybe there's some language in that we can modify
No,
too.
that's fine. I'm not saying we gotta do it tonight. I'm
Yeah.
just pointing things out. That's why I'm a director, looking out for the taxpayers against lawsuits or potential lawsuits. That's what I'm doing tonight. I don't want you to make a decision tonight. I want you to look at the policy, because the policy that was written for AVAC back 50 years ago, we had one pipeline. That's
Yeah,
all I'm saying. Take a
We'll
look
look
at
at
it.
that section.
Take a look at it.
Would that not, would that not be just the, they're compensated for? It may take more than an hour. They're
Right.
compensated.
This is just the definition. We're going to get down to the policy later on, because that definition is going to come up in a policy that we're also going to review.
Would that be, what they're compensated for?
Yes, it's in the policy, 2 hours.
George, wait till we get to the policy. This is a definition. I think the definition is going to be fine once you see how it applies in the policy. And also, so everybody knows, our representatives at JPIA reviewed all of our changes and our whole policy,
Yes.
as did
Attorneys,
our attorneys have reviewed them at one time.
yes, they have.
At one time when?
That's a good question, because Tilden's shaking his head, so
I know, Rob, I'm not doubting what you're saying, but when? See, the problem is what they do, every year we renew this stuff every 5 years, and we add another 10 miles of pipeline. That's all I'm asking.
JPIA reviewed all of our policies in December. We received them back in January. And then they were also sent on to Markman's office, and somebody in their HR department also reviewed them. Mr. Tillman had given us a couple memos on a couple of the policies that we're going to review in just a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so let's go to page 85. This is going to be section 3.5 under the complaint process. The only change we're having to make here is we're going to change, this is a statutory change, so it's a state change. This California Department of Fair Employment and Housing has changed its name to the Civil Rights Department. So the only change we're making in this policy is changing the name of the department to the Civil Rights Department. The whole policy is that's all we did. And you can see that red line there. Any questions? We're good on that one? Great. Okay. So then on section 4.5, and you can see in the memo section, instead of having to look at the whole policy, we can just call out the one section. So 4.5 deals with promotions, and Aqua JPIA recommended that we change probation, the word probationary, to introductory, so that it is the same terms as with our at-will employment status.
Where do people come up with this crap? The probationary has been utilized for over 70 years. But go ahead.
Okay. I totally get it, Frank. I do. I understand exactly what you're saying.
I'm just bringing it up.
Okay. Then we have
different meetings in the legal counsel. Probationary director of this two completely different meetings.
I don't know if that issue was vetted by our.
sent them on to you. Yeah. Because we're at will status, it is recommended that we have introductory periods of time, which is usually a 6-month period of time, rather than probationary.
But again, probationary, see that they fit, they can do the job right there. Introductories doesn't mean it is completely for a meeting.
Yes. Well, I understand that, but that's if we were going to stay at an at will status with our employees, that's at will status. Our employees are at will. We don't have a bargaining union. We do not do contracts with individual employees other than the manager.
That's completely different probationary period.
Yes.
Millions of years. And
Yes.
that's for sometimes people during period, they don't cut it right there.
Right.
In introductory period, that's, I'm just trying to think why they would want to make that change.
Because it doesn't coincide with at-will status. This is a recommendation by JPIA. You do not have to take the recommendation. It's just a recommendation by JPIA.
Well, what do you mean by at-will status?
Our employees.
Going back, but there's a lot of information, and I can see very well there should have been a special, meeting. You're going over a lot of those things. You've done this for years. You understand it, but you're using some of these terms, and most of the board is not real familiar.
Okay.
And that's a completely different, meaning. An
at-will status is a person that we employ that is not in a bargaining union.
But that has nothing to do with probation when they're a job. It has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
At least in my estimation.
Okay.
George,
Well, would you like us to scratch this one?
Can I jump in here? Yes. So the JPIA is the ones who insure us for any employment issues and liability issues and everything. So I think how it came about that we had this reviewed again as I was at one of our Aquay JPIA meetings, and they went over policies, procedures, said things are changing, we should redo ours and get them reviewed. JPIA is the one who handles any legal matter that Frank has brought up as a possibility regarding employment. They recommended that we change this to introductory rather than probationary, and the reason is probationary is usually a term that's assigned to an employee that more of a civil service employee. California Highway Patrol has probationary periods. If you finish your probationary period, then you go into the civil service status. And I'm not an expert in this, but at-will employees, they want it to say introductory rather than probationary, so it doesn't assume that after a probationary period, they go into a different status, because they don't in our agency. And like I said, I'm not an expert, but I believe that's the reason JPIA would recommend it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Director Miller, I do have a question, because at the end of that section, it refers the completion of the probationary period. Is that word?
We'll probably change it. We should probably change it there also. Yes, thank you.
Doctor, you did miss that.
Thank you. I will redline that. So we will redline that also.
What happened?
I just correct.
Good job.
Thank you, Audrey. Okay,
Can you change that one there?
I will.
Let me ask another question there. What would happen if a person takes a new assignment in that job and doesn't work out? What would happen?
Same thing. They're at-will employees. They would be dismissed.
It'd be a little more difficult.
As to cause.
It would be a little more difficult.
After an introductory period?
Yeah.
I think you just have to show more documentation after the introductory period. But we have our counsel here, and he's probably has as much expertise in HR as I do, huh?
That's correct.
I have a comment. I'm up here to think that's one thing that's being great. I have access to a computer. The Webster Dictionary and the Oxford Dictionary, a probationary periods are defined periods of time that employees are exempt from certain contractual items, most importantly, the notice period required of termination. And then out here it says, new employees commonly join initiative probationary period between 3 to 6 months, although some companies will extend that to a new year. And the reason is probationary periods are designed to give managers and employees a way to terminate an arrangement more easily should the employment not work out as expected. That is why that terminology was created 70 years ago, and it's in two of the largest dictionaries in the world as the definition. it's a sad thing is we have a governor named Newsom who wants to change the dictionaries as well. So we as a board, it doesn't matter. I mean, we should keep to what the legal term is, but that's described in the dictionaries of the world. I mean, that's just my opinion. So that means this thing right here is like a trial thing. Do they still get benefits? That's the question I don't know. Nobody has defined what was just said here, that if these people that don't make it and you tell them they're terminated, do you got to pay them unemployment?
Yes, we do. They've made salary through us. Either way, they have to get benefits from us, for either probationary or introductory.
Frank, this is Keith. I think you made a lot of sense. And if this change in terminology is recommended but not mandatory, why do we take any action at all?
We don't have to. That's why we're bringing them to the board.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. That's what I want.
Totally up to the board.
That makes the most sense I've heard tonight. Thank you.
Mr. President, this is Rob. I would just say, responding to Keith's question, that's true. We don't have to make any changes, but that's why we send this up to the people who insure us for these type of employment actions to have a proper terminology. I mean, we don't have to make changes in our policy if the law changes regarding lunch breaks, but we better if we're not going to get in trouble. So we should be taking the advice of the experts who are insuring us as to wording in our policy.
So this is a little stronger than just a recommendation.
Well, these are people who insure us for these type of employment actions.
Ron, if that person who made that recommendation was sitting here, they may say something completely different. Oh, it's just a recommendation, and we can go either way. So we're making it like there's some rule, and what they say is law. It's not right there.
Well, it's not law.
I would agree with Patty, what Patty just said. It is a recommendation. That's a recommendation.
And the board makes the final decision, but introductory in probationary might be completely different. Yeah, that's like, again, it was talked about, Frank and Keith, probationary period, see if somebody's going to work on that job in introductory.
I think if you feel strongly about it and you want to do something other than what our insurers are telling us to do.
Well, let's get the insurers on the line at a different time.
Well, we can certainly have Patty followed up and
let's
see how
let the committee of the board talk to that. You don't have to.
They may not want to after they hear the recording of this meeting.
But it may be a completely different answer. But if we had them on the board, the conference call, I think it would be good.
Whatever you'd like, President, I think we can arrange.
George, I got a question for the president. George, what's the definition of an expert? What is that definition of an expert?
You don't want to know the answer I have, Frank.
Okay, I won't say anything else tonight. Thank you.
Mr. President? Mr. President?
Yes.
So, my question on it would be, when understanding the difference between an at-will versus like a civil service or someone represented by bargaining, is it an issue, or my question to the APIA that's recommending it, does it create a liability issue potentially if an at-will employee can say, well, I completed a probationary period, therefore my understanding was I got civil service protections, as opposed to an at-will employee completing an introductory period. It sounds like that's where this is coming, at least based on my experience in state service. But that would be my question to them.
Anything is possible, but private enterprise or in businesses have used probationary periods for probably decades, maybe 100 years, but it's not new. I mean, that's a standard practice.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody doesn't work out, it's going to be very difficult if they're in their introductory period versus a probationary. A probationary period, I think everybody understands they're there to see if it's going to work out the job they're hired for in the introductory period, doesn't leave that meaning, at least I would think.
But we can get more clarification on that. We can get JPIA to maybe write us, maybe we get Bob Green from JPIA to write us a memo on it.
Well, it'd be
And we can
nice-
address it at another
It'd be
time.
nice, Betty, if we could, talk to him on a conference.
Yeah, we could do something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't mean to confuse the issue, but I just noticed something reading through this as we're sitting here. If you look at the previous two sections on section 4.3, so when we talk about probations and introductory periods, it's broken up into two different categories. There's new hires, so new employees to the agency, that's covered under section 4.3. And that has always used the term introductory period, as you can see. So this is not being changed from the previous policy. So that talks about the process of a new employee and being on an introductory period for 6 months and a process to relieve that individual of duty.
Right. This is just talking about promotions.
And so if you look at promotions on section 4.5 where this all started, I see changing it to introductory just makes it consistent with the terminology in new hires. So I think there's a benefit to that. If we've always used the term introductory for new hires, it makes sense to be consistent for promotions to use that term. That's my thought.
Good observation, Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that good? Is that better? Is that a better understanding?
No, I think we still need to have that conference.
Okay, we can still have that conversation with JPIA then. Okay. All right, so we will go on then to this on section 6, which is under work schedules. This was a question by the committee. They wanted to make sure that our policy is in line with industrial standards for meal breaks for our plant employees. And so if you'll look on page 90 is our rest break policies. And both JPIA looked at this and Mr. Tillman gave us a memo on this. And it looks like JPIA totally agreed that we're just fine with it. Our plant employees do get lunch breaks. They get 2, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon because they're on a 10-hour shift. They also get breaks, but they are paid for their lunch periods. They are paid through their lunch time. In case there is a call or something happens, they can still respond. So it's a compensated lunch period, and that's always been how the agency has operated.
Thank you, Betty.
Mm-hmm. So is that good? Is that good with everybody? Also, it was noted that California public employees are generally exempt from meal and rest period requirements. Everybody good? Okay, so now we'll go back on to standby time. This will be fun. On standby time, we just wanted to clarify to our employees that standby time is not considered working time because the employee is not overly restricted in his or her ability to engage in personal time. So they are paid 1 hour for each 24 hours of standby time, whether they're called out or not. They're paid that 1 hour. That does not mean that they cannot go shopping with their wife or take the kids to the park. They are not overly restricted. They don't have to stay at home by the phone or, stay in uniform, be action ready to come right to work. So that's why they get paid just the 1 hour per 24-hour period. Any questions?
Yeah. Keep going.
Keep going. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's go to page 92. This is just going to be a little bit on vacation time. We wanted to clarify that our vacation is accrued bi-weekly. It was not clarified before. And we needed to take out on 12.0.2 that no vacation time may be used until the completion of the employee's first year of service. It's kind of hard to have somebody accruing time and then not allow them to use that time. So that's the only two changes that we wanted to make on the vacation time. Okay. Okay, this next section is on page 94, and this is referring to the holiday. And I wanted to add the word observance there. So it's just going to address holidays observed. And I just wanted to, and you retired and you have to pay 50% of your insurance. If you have a lapse if you don't pay, say you don't pay for 2 or 3 months and there's a lapse there, you are no longer able to be insured. You're dropped and we cannot pick you back up. JPIA, our underwriters will not pick you back up. So it's just talking about a little bit about lapse of coverage. And then also that once retired and eligible for Medicare, our retirees will sign up for parts A and B upon eligibility. And that's just a little bit more clarification on that.
Okay, so question. So it says retirees coverage at 60. Now, I was under the impression that if you've been with the agency 20 plus years, you have full coverage when you retire.
You do.
Okay. Is any of this what we see in front of us right now have anything to do with that?
Well, this is the lapse in coverage is basically for people that are not with the agency for a full 20 years and retire. Or if they're with the agency for 20 years, leave the agency, retire, say they've been here for 20 years, they leave, and they're gone for 5 years, and then they retire, they do not collect medical insurance from us because there's been a lapse of coverage.
Okay.
From the time they were employed to the time they retired. So that's what this is basically addressing.
Thank you.
Okay, and then on 109, this is going to be drug, alcohol, marijuana abuse. It was recommended by the JPIA to add the word marijuana to locations wherever we had alcohol drugs listed in our drug policy. And we'll also add that to the title at the beginning. And in January 2024, the AB Assembly Bill 2188 will prohibit adverse action based on use of cannabis off the job. So we'll be providing additional training on reasonable suspicion protocols to all of our managers and superintendents and leads. JPIA is going to do additional research into if we have to change any of our policies, and those will be addressed next year. I think with the legalization of cannabis, we knew this was coming, so that's all that this is going to be addressed.
What about the legalization of Washington, D.C., cocaine? Is that going to be legalized too?
Well, if we're in D.C.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's basically that policy. And then on page 117, towards the back, policy 36.3 through 36.7, we're just adding some more clarification for separation of agency, what we're expecting of our employees when they're leaving the agency. Cooperation with investigations, property return, what they can expect with benefits, and the issuing of final checks.
One thing I want to say, because I'm not on the personnel committee, I want to make sure that they have the best benefits provided to take care of them and their family. So that's just my statement.
Yeah, well, and in our policy, we do have a really good, I will say the board has given us a very good medical package.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure of that.
Yes. And I think that's all I have unless you have any questions or any other comments. And if there's, these are the recommended changes.
Outstanding presentation, Patty. Thank you very much. And
it's been a pleasure.
Just so the board knows, this whole package went through the personnel committee. We recommended approval all of us recommended approval. And at this point, I would move approval of board order 8B1, the amendments to the employee handbook.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Paris. We need a second.
I will second.
A second, Director Miller. Is there any further discussion? If not, Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the committee.
Mr. President, we have one more item. And this was an item that I actually recommended to the Personnel Committee. It's a negotiation leadership training class at Harvard. And my reason for recommending it to the committee for Matt to attend, and I will have Matt present exactly what the class is going to be. It's Harvard. It has the best negotiation leadership classes in the country. Our general manager has to negotiate major contracts, major deals on almost a daily basis. And I feel any advanced training we can give him would be great. CEOs from major companies go to this training. It's negotiation leadership and dealing with difficult people and problems. The one course is negotiating leadership is a 3-day course, and then the dealing with difficult persons actually and is taught by the authors of the book Difficult Conversation. So outstanding course. And Matt, if you want to explain a little bit more of what this course is involved, and
Yep.
I'll let you do that now. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Paris. So in your board packet on page 120 is a brief staff report. And as Director Paris mentioned, this was recommended by himself and reviewed by the Personnel Committee. The class takes place in Massachusetts and in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it's between September 18th through September 21st. The cost of the program is $6,000 plus there'd be travel expense associated with it. I attached to the staff report copy of the program for the 4-day class. It is 3-day program, but there is a bonus day, so it makes it 4 days. So the first day kind of focuses on understanding key negotiation concepts. It runs from 8 to 5 p.m. every day. The second day focuses on managing interpersonal dynamics. The third day focuses on addressing negotiation complexities. And then the bonus day is focused on difficult conversations and some leadership skills. So seems like a beneficial course, and I'd be honored if the board approved me to attend the class, and we'll make sure Peter's here to fill in for me for that week. So be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a question. If we approve this, I think you should be open to some of the board as well, because they're the ones that sit on the committees with you to negotiate contracts. So I think it should be open. I mean, $25,000-$30,000, the average contract is well over a million, probably 10 million or more. So it's something for that any other directors that don't have this experience in negotiation, they should have the opportunity to go through this training as well.
Frank, this is Rob, Mr. President, can I speak?
Yes.
Yeah, Frank, I would agree with that 100%. The type of deals that our board members are involved in, negotiating that classes like these would be great. I just saw it come up. I get these from time to time, and if the board wants me to, I can start sending them to the whole board as they come up. I attended an advanced mediation course at Harvard. It's where this course will be taught, and they're world-renowned teachers, and people from all over the world come to be trained here. So I would agree with you 100%.
Well,
and
thanks, Rob, because let me bring this up. We're in the process. We've already had beginning talks regarding Indian Wells, Wheeling. We're talking a multi-million dollar project that's going to go to China-based pipelines. We're talking about Cadiz pipeline, another tens and tens of millions of dollars. AVAC is now, and I forgot the one because it's right in front of my face. Let's talk about Met. That's going to be close to $200 million. And we're negotiating on contracts on their behalf when it comes to bidding. So in my opinion, I think it's, with you, Rob, I'm glad you feel the same way, that this should be included to all the board of directors.
It's going, so probably we should have a motion that would be good for
I'll make a motion. This is Frank. I'll make a motion that this item be open to, of course, Matt and the rest of the board of directors, the ones that feel that they need to have this training.
Frank or Mr. President, can I make a recommendation?
Yes, Rob.
This board order is specific as to Matt for this course, but the easiest thing for us to do would be just to put it on our approved, or look at it and put it on our approved list of
that's a good
conferences that we can attend.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And I will provide the information. We could bring it up to our next personnel meeting, put it as a new board order, and I'll ask that we get consensus to add it to our approved list.
Yeah. But as far as time to go by, so we should probably have this motion with boards.
Oh, if anybody wants to attend this one with Frank.
Yeah.
I mean, with Matt.
With Matt,
sure. Yeah.
That's my motion.
Okay.
We have a motion, needed second.
Mr. President, I'll second that motion.
And the motion and a second?
Motion is to approve, just
Yeah.
so I can summarize it,
General manager,
approve the general
board.
manager going in any board members that would like to go to this specific class at this time also.
Yes, yes. Okay, is there any further discussion? Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Lloyd Lane.
Yes. Very well, motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the committee reports, sir, Rob.
You're very welcome, President, and thank Patty for most of the committee report.
Okay, the next one, Water Master and Groundwater Committee, that goes back to you, Rob.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, we're going to review the draft 2022 Antelope Valley Water Masters annual report. And instead of our general manager, we've asked Angel, who has become an expert in the Water Master activities, to present the annual report to you.
All right, thanks, Rob. Holly, can you go to the next slide, please?
And Patty has trained her for this.
Okay, so the first item under the Water Master Committee will be the review of the draft 2022 annual report. There is a staff memo on this item on page 128 of your agenda packet. This first item here is an information only item, but I do have a few slides just to give you a quick overview of the draft report. These slides will include the background information, AVEC's review of the report, updates made by the Water Master Engineer, and the current state of the basin as reported by the Water Master Engineer in the report, and of course the timeline of the final submittal. Let's see, sorry. Okay, so as most of you know, the calendar year 2022 was the 7th year since the judgment was finalized. Under the judgment, the Water Master Engineer is responsible for preparing and submitting an annual report to the courts by August 1st of each year. Producers and the public have had the opportunity to provide comments to the Water Master Engineer since the initial draft report was posted on the Water Master website on June 2nd. There's also a public hearing that will be held at the July board meeting to receive additional public comments and recommendations for the final version of the report. I'm sorry. Can you go back one? I just want to kind of briefly explain what AVEC's part in reviewing the annual report. So AVEC staff reviewed the draft report to ensure that AVEC's information was correctly and properly reported and captured in the report. Staff reviewed AVEC's production amounts, water storage amounts, reported production for the imported water return flows, and also Water Master transfers that occurred in the 2022 calendar year. Staff provided the necessary comments to the Water Master Engineer, and our comments have been addressed in the most recent version of the report. Thanks. Okay, so these are just the major updates that the Water Master Engineer spells out in the report. The primary sections of the text that the Water Master Engineer updated were the activities that took place in 2022, as well as the monitoring and safe field components, the water accounting, and the state of the basin. They've also updated all the appendices, which include the water accounting for the calendar year 2022, the storage agreement list. They included the audit, the delinquent assessments, delinquent reporting, and all approved applications to date for the year, or the calendar year 2022, and the list of forms used by the Water Master Engineer. Thank you. Okay, so this slide, let's see, I'm sorry. Let me catch up here. Okay, so this slide gives an overview of the state of the basin as reported by the Water Master Engineer in the report. As I mentioned before, this is the 7th year since the final judgment. It's also 2022 is the final year of ramp down for the Water Master. Sorry. This chart shows that the water levels have decreased since 2016 and have stayed pretty consistent with the native safe field. As you'll see on the next slide, the high production for the 2020 through 2022, the high production levels were due to the recovery of stored water. Holly, can you go to the next slide, please? I'm sorry, back one slide. Apologize. Oh, maybe you were, no, orange next. Okay, so this slide here shows the reported production, but it also breaks out the recovery of stored water. So if you look, you can see that if you remove the recovery of the stored water showed in the orange, the pumping has been below the native safe field of the 82,300 acre feet since 2018. Overall, the basin appears to be coming into balance as intended by the judgment. So that's what that shows there. Next slide. Let's see. So this is just kind of a timeline provided by the Water Master Engineer on the final submittal of the report. The annual report is due to the court by August 1st. Final comments are due to the water master engineer by June 14th. And the public hearing will be held to receive additional comments and recommendations for the final version of the report at the July Water Master Board meeting. The Water Master engineer plans to post the final report on the website by July 28th. And they would like to submit the final report to the court by July 31st. And that's all I have on this item, unless anybody has any other questions.
Looks like everything's going forward.
Yeah.
I had one question. So the orange, is that the water then that's basically in carryover or what?
No, that's the recovery of stored water. So that would be any water recovered that's been stored, whether it's AVEC giving replacement water assessments, using storage water in lieu of replacement water assessments, or if AVEC uses their stored water, or one of the other, I guess, producers with a storage agreement if they used and reported that they used that stored water within those years.
The portion of the orange bars is primarily made up of AVAC recovering water from our West Side Water Bank.
Oh, okay.
Or East Side Water Bank.
That doesn't have anything to do with the 10% leave behind?
No, that's simply showing the amount of recovered stored water.
Okay.
And like I said, lion's share of that is AVAC.
So in 2019, there's our lowest water level?
Well, that's the lowest year of production. So the blue bars is what each of the, a total of what each of the producers reported as being pumped.
Okay.
So
this isn't a basin amount with the,
No.
there was 110,000 acre feet in the basin to be pumped out?
Yeah. So the native safe yield, you can see there's 82,300. That's all the production right.
Okay.
The 110,000, if you remember, includes return flow. You know.
That was 39%.
39% for M&I and 34 for ag.
Because I would think our basin is coming up with.
Yeah, what these graph or the presentation does not show is water level changes.
Can we get that?
Yeah, I think Phyllis will most likely report on that at the next Water Master meeting.
Okay.
She's got some graphics that show the change in water level from last year or several years.
Yeah.
We used to participate with the government program with the major water wells. We still do.
We still do.
That's through the state water contractors?
Yeah, so the contracting entity now is the Water Master, but financially, the association, the state water contractors contribute, as well as the Water Master.
I mean, there's a lot of good information.
Oh yeah, I mean that data that's collected by the USGS on a annual basis, that's the main data that the Water Master uses to determine water level changes.
Can we get that for our board? So when we get review this?
Yeah, maybe at the next AVAC board meeting, the day before the Water Master meeting, we'll try to get some slides from Phyllis to go over and that show that change in water level.
You know, years ago, Matt, they used to make a presentation to the AVAC board, USGS. Is that still possible?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we're paying a lion's share of the cost as AVAC, so.
Yeah, I think we've been having that we have had that presentation in the past at the Alabama State Water Contractors, and I'm sure we can ask them.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good data.
And it would be good, this next Water Master meeting in July would be a good meeting for all of our board members to listen into, because Phyllis will be going through some more of the report. It's going to be our final reporting, I think, for public conference on it. And also every month, Phyllis has been, our Water Master engineer, has been reporting on the model that they're creating using the USGS and other well sites to create a whole model of our water basin. So good stuff that's happening in the Water Master world.
Yeah,
good.
And yeah, we'll get a presentation by the USGS, and we'll share with directors, if you're interested, there is an interactive link on their website that we can access, and you can click on individual wells here in the valley and see hydrographs and historical levels for each of the wells.
We're a little worried about a few of yours, Gary, but I won't bring it up now.
Say that again?
I'm just teasing you.
Yeah. I was thinking the water table would be coming up without, with all the farming that's been,
Yeah, that it's actually doing really well.
Yeah.
All our reports.
Especially this year with all the both natural recharge and artificial recharge that AVAC is doing. There's been a lot of natural runoff from the San Gabriel Mountains and Tehachapi's.
We don't have any long-term concerns in terms of those few years where we're having a lot of water theft from the illegal cannabis grows.
That I think years ago or several years ago, that may have been an issue, but I understand some of that's been under control lately, right? There's probably still a little bit going on, but
yeah, it's not like it was, but I was just wondering if it caused any long-term issues.
No, I don't think so. In the scope of things, it's a pretty small volume.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a good report. Is there any other questions from Angel?
Good job, Angel.
Angel?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And just so the board knows, Angel's been, and Patty too, over the years as helping our administrators on the Water Master Board both have done a tremendous job. We have new administrators. We're having growing pains, but we are still assisting, and Angel is our resident expert in Water Master world. And thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you much.
Holly, next item.
And she's got one more item.
Sorry,
today.
there's one more item.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, the next agenda item is 8C2, and this is consideration and possible action on authorizing staff to prepay 2024 Water Master fixed administrative assessment fee to the Water Master. There is a brief staff memo on this item on page 132 of your agenda packet. So at the June Water Master Board meeting, the Water Master new administrator did express that the Hallmarks Group calculation show that the Water Master may experience a cash position deficit as early as mid-August of this year, requiring a $5 supplemental administrative assessment to be charged to maintain the Water Master's financial stability. The Water Master Administrator did propose and recommend approval of that $5 supplemental assessment, which was not approved by the Water Master Board. As an alternative solution, the Water Master Board asked that the larger water suppliers pay their fixed administrative assessment for 2024 ahead of schedule to give the board more time to develop other ways to increase the Water Master revenue. So I guess with that, the recommendation for this item would be to authorize staff to prepay AVEC's 2024 fixed administrative assessment fee to the Water Master in the amount of $21,250 if the Water Master chooses to proceed with this approach.
I have a question, Mr. Director Donato. So, the question I have is, can you go back to the prior slide, please? Okay, so what you're saying is basically they want to raise it from $5 to $10 an acre foot because they believe there might be a deficit, and now you're asking AVAC to support that. So if the Water Master Board decides to go that way, you won't have to come back to us?
And Mr. President, can I handle that question from Frank?
Yeah, Ron.
Yeah, go ahead.
Frank, so at our last meeting, there was lively discussion about raising the assessment and also doing a supplemental assessment. The first motion was to approve the supplemental assessment, and I believe that got a 3-2 vote. And then there was a motion to, I believe, have all the public agencies pay their assessment for next year ahead of time just to get us out of this basically budget crisis, financial crisis, so that we would have more time to build consensus on the board to get a solution to this. There was discussion about, $5, $4, $3, and some of the board members had not gotten approval from their parent agencies to even vote on it at that time. So LA County agreed that they would go back and they would pay their 2024 assessment early because the motion failed, I think, 3-2?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that motion failed 3-2. And then as the chairman, I made a request from public agencies and even private members on the Water Master Board to at least take it back to their agencies and their companies to see if they could pay or prepay their 2024 assessment to give the Water Master Board more time to consider a supplemental assessment and build a consensus to make all this happen. I am confident at our next meeting we're going to have a consensus to solve this problem, but I'm not confident that we will have enough time to do a supplemental assessment to get us through the financial crisis. So I asked Matt to put this item on the agenda for us to consider paying our 2024 assessment early. I think LA County is going to do the same. I think Palmer Water District is going to do the same. I think Port Sill Water District said they were going to try to do the same. And some of the private companies had agreed that they were going to go back and see if they could do it. So,
Rob, so the guy that made I listened to the whole thing. The guy that made a lot of sense, I mean, he actually gave in because he said, you know what, at least if we do this now, if there's any money left over, we can add it. His name, I think his name was Jim Godey.
Gary Godey.
Gary Godey, yeah. And I thought his analysis was good. I think, in my opinion, I think that AVAC needs to step up. I think that AVAC should prepay the additional. As we all know, nobody wants to pay any more money, but nobody also cannot control the 8 to 12% of inflation. I mean, that's what it is what it is. And to take it out on an organization that needs the money to have the staff they have, it's what it is. So I personally will support prepaying the 2024. I think, it's a good way. You guys have I was listening to this last two meetings. You guys have beat up the consultants. You told them that they should not be raising fees and this and that. And that's all you can do. I mean, what else can you do? Somebody has to pay at the end of the day, and this is what it is. So I personally, the director, approve prepaying the 2024 ahead.
Yeah, but here's where the problem is, Frank. Hallmark came in here agreeing at I believe $165,000 1-year fee.
Gary, you're 100% right.
Now it's raised to 240.
I know. Okay. I agree with you, Gary. Gary, I agree 100%. But you guys hired him.
Has anybody?
Gary, there was a mistake made. We now know there's a mistake made. I agree with you 100%. But what are you going to do?
Well, I'm asking a question. Has anybody went to Hallmark and asked them if they had reduced their rates?
We've had,
if you can't get but you still got the attorneys. Attorneys are raising their fees. Engineers raising their fees.
Has anybody went to Hallmark and asked them to reduce their rates?
You know what? I'm not on the board. That's why I'm on the board, because I'm too vocal. I would have fired their ass for even them making a statement to come back. I knew exactly what they did. I've been doing it now for 7 years of this agency. It's called change orders. They said, we're going to go in there. They're not going to have a choice. we're gonna win the bid, and then we're gonna come back with a change order. That's exactly what they did.
And here's where the problem lies, Frank, and everybody on the board. It's not just AVAC, it's all the farmers. Everybody that's behind me is gonna be paying these assessments. And any production right holder is gonna pay it. And this is not gonna go down, is it, Matt? One time when we pass this, it's gonna be locked in. I don't see it going down, going away.
Yeah, we're through a bad decision today, just recently, and once we do this, I mean, we'll make it impossible for them to operate next year without any, we can see what's gonna happen, they're gonna have to increase fees. And so we need to look back and decide, does ABAC want to go ahead and promote this? And, I think we need to look at it closely. But it's, do they need the money? Yes. Did they make a wise decision? They bid it and there was competition and they got the low bid. It should go out to bid again.
That's right. They bid it against three other companies, Rob.
Yeah, no other business or very seldom many businesses can operate like this in the private sector.
And Frank's exactly right. It's a change order. It's right in the middle of the stream.
They purposely set up the organization, the underbid, knowing that they could come back, thought they're knowing they're going to come back to put a change order in to get more money. That's what this is all about.
If we pay this now, we're not going to have money next year. So we know it's going to have to be raised.
Wait, Mr. President, this will give us time to make a good decision on how to do this, to build consensus. And remember what we're faced with. We have by the adjudication, every vote has to be 5-0.
But we know they can't operate if we prepay. You don't have to have a consensus. They're going to be broke next year. I mean, that's a foregone.
Well, we are, number one, looking at what a supplemental assessment's going to be, and then what the assessment for 2024 will be.
But that's what's going to happen.
We're prepaying. What we're asking to do is prepay to give the Water Master Board a little bit more time to figure out a supplemental assessment and get the votes to do it. So anyway, I think there is a lot of frustration. I understand that. My job as chairman on the Water Master Board and your representative is to do everything possible to build consensus and to run that board the best way that we can. And so far, in 7 years, we've had a 5-0 vote on everything and have not had to go to the judge to work it out, but it has required a lot of work to build consensus on these things. So with the approval of Board Order 8C2, this is a Band-Aid approach to give us more time to build consensus and keep the water master functioning, which I think we all want to make sure that happens.
So what you're saying, Rob, is when we do this rate increase and then it'll be reduced back?
Yeah, this is not a rate increase. What we're asking for right now is to prepay our $5 per acre foot assessment, prepay our 2024 assessment, realizing that this assessment will probably go up. Maybe next year it might be $8, $9, and $10, and then we would pay whatever the additional would be at the 2024 time. This just gives us the finances to continue functioning the Water Master Board effectively that we all need. Anybody who wants to make a transfer, anybody who wants to transfer carryover, anybody who wants to sell production right. If the Water Master Board can't have a meeting, those things can't happen. And I don't think any of us want that to happen.
Rob, this should happen right there, and they bid on it just recently.
Correct.
And now they're being rewarded for a bad decision. It should go out to bid again.
And
I have a question, Rob, for Rob. Rob, I got a question. Okay, so
Frank.
Can the board? Okay, let's say we prepay. I understand that. It gives you guys a year and a half. Can we fire this group of people and go out the bid?
any action by the Water Master Board takes a 5-0 vote.
No, but I mean, no, what I was asking you was, that could, but to get, I need a 5-0 vote, but can that be done in principle?
We can, well, we have a year contract, but we could go out for bid. I think.
Wait. You don't have a year contract anymore. They broke it.
Well, they have not. They have asked for change orders on additional work that was not in the contract. But again, Frank, if you listen to our meetings, it should be clear to you that we cannot get a 5-0 vote to do that.
I know. I'm just saying, I believe that our board, Avek's board, should have that money available if they can get the 5-0 vote. That's just my opinion, because
We've had a lot of discussion. I think we all understand the issues.
Yeah, I'd like to make one comment. I know on our advisory board to the Water Master, they, Hallmark, didn't agree to make our agenda for us. They said it wasn't in their pay schedule. And it kind of rubbed the advisory board the wrong way. They knew it going into it, and then all of a sudden they basically just declined to do it. We made an agreement with them now, and it's getting done. But I'm with Frank. I think we bring it when their contract runs out. We need to review do some more interviews, pick a new attorney.
I think that will happen, and we have a 5-0 vote. We can do what we can do. So, Mr. President, I do think we've had a lot of discussion on this. I know there's a lot of frustration, and we are working very hard to get consensus to fix this problem. And with that, I would move approval of Board Order 8C2.
Second. Director Harrison and Donato. No further discussion. Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
No.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
yes.
George Lane.
Abstaining. The motion carried. Thank you, everybody.
And thank you, Angel, for the presentation of both of those items.
Okay, that brings us on executive committee and one thing, Matt's going to keep the board informed for some time that we have excess water and we need to find a use for it. And Matt and staff's been working on that. And I think, Matt, you're the expert in these items. So why don't you just continue?
All right. Thank you, President Lane. So to kind of kick it off, Peter Thompson, our assistant GM, is going to give an overview of our surplus water supplies that we've been talking about. And then we do have 2 action items where we have some ideas that we're proposing to the board this evening on how to put that excess or surplus water to beneficial use for the agency.
Okay.
So go ahead, Pete. We'll have you give the presentation on the next couple slides, and then I'll take it over from there.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Good evening, board. I'm the lucky guy that gets to talk about surpluses after a long discussion on deficits. So we'll get it kicked off. Holly, can you move us along? Thank you. So we want to talk about what that surplus water is, just to make that really clear. So that's after we meet all the customer demands, right now estimated at 40,000 acre feet. We fully maximize our recharge facilities, and we're estimating between 55 and 60,000 acre feet of water will go into the ground this year. There may be one small transfer, so assuming that occurs, then there's that 2,100. And then also we want to plan on having some water carried over from 2023 to 2024 in San Luis Reservoir, and that's at 20,000 acre feet. So after all of that is accomplished, we still have roughly 50,000 acre feet of surplus water that we needed to find something to do with to bring back benefit to the agency. So next slide. And please feel free to stop me at any time if you have a question. When staff was looking at this, we really wanted to look for three key benefits to bring back to the agency with that surplus water. The first one was dry year water storage. We know that in a critically dry year, like a 5% year that we've experienced recently, it's valuable to have some wet water in the State Water Project that we can call on and bring back to AVEC. So we do have a program for that we wanted to invest in this year. We also wanted to do transfers for cash. We know that we're moving that 60,000 acre feet of water into the ground, and that I think we initially estimated at $14 million to move all that water. Doing these transfers for cash will help offset some of those costs that we're experiencing in this really wet year doing all that banking. Another option we looked at to bring back value to the agency was doing some transfers for groundwater. We know that there are some agricultural entities in the Central Valley that have groundwater rights out in the AV. So it made sense to reach out to them to see if they'd be interested in trading out State Water Project rights or State Water Project water this year for groundwater in the Antelope Valley. So those are the three key areas we were looking at. Next slide, Holly. All right. And so we settled on three programs that we're going to look at, and Matt's going to really dive into the details on the last two. But the first one was an existing agreement we have with Irvine Ranch, where we can do it's essentially a 2-for-1 banking agreement, and we're able to bring back some of that water in a critically dry year. So the nuts and bolts of it is after losses, we can bring back close to 4,000 acre feet in any year that we choose at a rate of between 1,300 acre feet to 4,000 acre feet, depending on the capacities of that bank at the time. Just to give some clarity on the value of that water, even if AVEC does not choose to use that water for their own purposes, if we have access to that water in a 5% year, like last year, the value of that water is about $2,000 an acre foot. So we could easily remarket that water and bring back some value to the agency. The other two options are transfers, and they're both for cash and groundwater. And so we're looking at, if you look at Irvine Ranch, we're going to do 10,000 acre feet there. We're proposing 30,000 acre feet with the Five Lions transfer and 9,500 with the Homer transfer. That gets us to 49,500 acre feet of surplus water that we're putting to beneficial use. We're able to act on all these programs. So that's where we're at right now. And I think with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Otherwise, Matt will dive into the term sheets for the last two transfers.
All right. Thank you, Pete. So yeah, we have two action items this evening. Both of them are term sheets with two different entities that Pete kind of outlined here. The first one is on page 134 of your board packet is a brief staff report. And then attached to that is the term sheet. In your original board packet, we accidentally provided a copy of the term sheet for Homer LLC, but you should have received an email and a hard copy on your desk this evening for the revised term sheet that is with Five Lions. So next slide, Holly. So Pete mentioned, we want to put this water to use and provide some value to the agency. And what both of these term sheets do for the agency is it provides both an exchange for local groundwater production, and it also provides some cash to the agency. So the first one being with Five Lions, they're a family-owned farming entity up in the San Joaquin Valley that also has some local production or local carryover rights here in the Adjudicate Basin. So we've worked with them in the past. About 3 years ago, we did a transfer with them. It worked out good for the agency. And so they approached the agency, and we reached back out to them and told them we had some surplus water, and they were entertaining an exchange of of our table A for some local carryover water and also purchasing some of that. So we put together this term sheet. We reviewed it with the executive committee about a week and a half ago. And next slide, please. So got some feedback from the committee. This first one is where AVAC would transfer up to 30,000 acre feet of table A, our 2023 table A, to Five Lions. In exchange for that, Five Lions would transfer 10,000 acre feet of carryover water here in the basin. That'd be on a 2-to-1 ratio. So that takes up 20,000 acre feet of table A. And then the remaining 10,000 acre feet, Five Lions would pay AVAC $150 per acre foot. So, which equates to about 1.5 million. And that's net revenue after all costs. So the agency will not have any cost associated with this 10,000 acre feet supply or even the full 30,000. All of the costs associated with the transfer and delivery costs, transportation costs, is going to be borne by Five Lions. So again, that's 1.5 million of net revenue to the agency, and we get 10,000 acre feet of local carryover water in the basin. So that's 10,000 acre feet that we have avoided transportation or delivery cost of moving that water to the Antelope Valley in the groundwater basin. It's already here in the basin. And Five Lions would pay all the fees associated with the water master to make that transfer happen. So this is the first of the two deals. This is, I mentioned Board Order 8D2. Next slide, please.
And a question there.
Yes.
What are they going to do with that 30,000 acre feet? What are they going to put it?
So they will do two things with it. They'll use some of it directly at their farming operation this year. A lion's share of it will be banked at one of the two locations in the San Joaquin Valley, either the semi-tropic water bank or the Rosedale Rio Bravo water bank. So both of which are within Kern County Water Agency. So Five Lions will have to work with Kern County Water Agency and the operators of those water banks to make that delivery happen.
Thank you.
And then I had a question, Matt. If we didn't take that 10,000 acre feet of carryover water, where would they use that at? They can't carry that over in the San Joaquin, can they?
Exactly. So their farming operation is in San Joaquin Valley, and the carryover water is here in the Antelope Valley. So unless they start up a farming operation here locally, it's kind of a stranded asset for them. So it's a win-win. You know, we put to use this 30,000 acre feet and get something in exchange.
You're pretty sure we couldn't keep in San Luis Reservoir?
Yeah, as we reported before, our contracted storage volume in San Luis is about 36,000 acre feet. We're currently planning to store 20,000 acre feet in San Luis. And based on the hydrology and reservoir levels within the State Water Project, there's a good chance that any excess above the 36,000 acre feet of contracted storage would spill come January 1st. We still want to have some contingency plans for the 20,000 acre feet that we are planning to put in San Luis, so we can get that out of San Luis in the event it looks like it's going to spill.
You said there's 20,000, but we have the right to put 30-something.
36 contracted. But the higher volume we have, the higher risk we have of spilling it.
So my question is there a better deal to be made with that carryover? We're about the only one that could use that, correct?
Well, they could transfer it to other parties here in the basin.
Right. Have they done that?
I don't remember seeing any transfers locally. So
okay, something to think about.
Yeah. So next slide.
It's just a question. You know, between 20,000 and 30-some-thousand, maybe we should take a chance and keep some a little additional water closer to maybe 25,000, 30,000 acre feet. Take a chance.
And we'll probably be close to that, because if you remember from Pete's slide, the volume of surplus we had is up to about 53,000. Even if we do each of these deals that we're talking about, that's about 49,000 roughly. So there's an extra 6,000 or so that we still have to play with that could be added to our carryover volume. So in reality, our carryover volume will probably be in excess of 20,000 acre feet. Again, we got to act sooner than later in the water year because everybody is fighting for capacity to move excess water this year. If we wait too late in the water year, we're going to increase our chances of spilling or losing a pretty significant volume of water.
What's the capacity right now of San Luis?
We've got some charts on GM report. It's pretty much full.
Okay.
So
that tells you right there that it looks like something's going to spill.
Yeah. And that's why we're being very careful not to have too much water in San Luis and lose that water.
Right.
Last thing I want to do is come to the board and say we've lost, 30, 40,000 acre feet. It's better to manage that supply. And if we can get something for it, which is what we're proposing right now, and still have a healthy reserve of 20,000 acre feet in San Luis.
Mm-hmm. Is this a one-time deal or is it?
Yeah, it's a one-time deal. So.
Okay.
So there's no commitment to do any future deals with Five Lines. It's a one-time $30,000 or 30,000 acre feet in exchange for that 10,000 acre feet of carryover and $1.5 million.
Okay, before we vote on this, let's move on to the next one. Too.
Okay, yeah.
Do it at the same time.
Yes, so the next one, Pauline, next slide. Is very similar. It's with between AVAC and Homer. It's a one-time transfer. It's for a smaller volume. This is a total of 9,500 acre feet of Table A carryover. I'm sorry, Table A State Water Project transfer from AVAC to Homer. Homer also has some farming operations in San Joaquin Valley. They have access to water banks, and they're also a water broker. So in exchange for that 9,500 acre feet of transfer, they are going to transfer 1,000 acre feet of carryover water here in the Antelope Valley to AVAC. And then the remaining 7,500 acre feet will be a cash payment at $150 per acre foot, netting the agency $1.125 million. So and then very similar to the prior deal, Homer will pay all costs associated with moving that water and performing the transfer.
Okay. Now, Matt, just AVAC transfers up to 9,500 acre feet. Homer transfers up to 1,000 acre feet. Or brings AVAC in for 7,500 acre feet. I'm not understanding that. Where's the difference?
Yeah, good eye, because that additional, it's a 2-to-1 on the 1,000 acre feet. So of the 9,500 acre feet of Table A, we're transferring 2,000 of Table A in exchange for 1,000 acre feet of local carryover. So that's a 2-to-1 ratio. And then so that after that leaves a balance of 7,500 acres.
Okay, and then Homer, now that's a little different situation, I believe, because they farm here and this basin, correct?
I don't know if they currently have farming. I don't remember seeing production recorded from Homer in recent years. They may have in the past, but
Have they sold any carryover water in the past?
they've done a couple different exchanges. They did one exchange with AVAC a couple years ago where they transferred some carryover.
I believe that's Andrew Warner.
Yeah, that Andrew Warner was formerly with Renewable Resource Group.
Okay.
He left that firm just recently.
Okay.
So very similar to the last deal, same terms as far as the exchange ratio and the dollars per acre foot. So between the two deals, we will get about 11,000 acre feet of carryover water transferred to AVAC here locally. and we'll get about $2.6 million in net revenue.
And this would also be a one-time, don't see
Correct.
it coming back around.
Correct.
You don't think they've actually taken a little chance and try to keep a little more carryover water in San Luis?
I don't. My recommendation is that we're pushing the limit on the volume that we're targeting right now at 20,000. I think if we get too much in there, we're going to have a hard time getting it out of San Luis before it spills in early 2024.
And then I think we got to consider too that this water's here. You know, this isn't water we've got to pump. You know, all that San Luis water still has to be pumped over the
Catch fees, yeah, it comes
which is
with
what, $250 an acre foot.
correct, yeah, 262 right now.
You know, you got to kind of consider that too. But I'm like George. I think that when you look at it, you know, you do want to save that water, but with San Luis being as full as it is, it kind of makes you wonder, you know, there's a good possibility of it spilling away.
Yeah.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion. We approve Board Order 8D2, which is a term sheet between Avek and Five Lions LLC for one-time exchange and transfer of 2023 Table A State Water Project water supply.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato. George Lane.
Yes.
Thank you.
Unanimous. Okay, we have 8D3. We have a motion on that.
Approval of board order 8D3.
We have a motion by Director Paris. Need a second?
Director Mercy, second.
Director Mercy, second. Okay, Madam Secretary, if we could have a roll call.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, good job.
All right.
Very-
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us down to number 9, General Manager's Report. We'll just take maybe a 5-minute break.
Sounds good. Bunch of different staff members present. We're going to call Jordan Ray, who is our lab manager, up, and she's going to give an update on the Chrome 6, or also known as the hexavalent chromium rules or updates. So take it away, Jordan.
On the hexavalent chromium rulemaking. It's been a few years in the process, so I'll provide a little bit of background. So hexavalent chromium, it's a form of the metallic element chromium. It's naturally occurring in the environment. It comes from the erosion of natural chromium deposits. In addition to this, it can also be produced by certain industrial processes. Some examples are electroplating, stainless steel production, leather tanning, textile manufacturing, and wood preservation. It's also a known carcinogen. Okay, so a little bit of history of the regulation. It has been regulated under the 50 parts per billion primary drinking water standard for the MCL for total chromium. And then back in August 2013, the California Department of Public Health proposed an MCL for hexavalent chromium of 10 parts per billion due to its potential carcinogenicity when it's ingested. On April 15th, 2014, they submitted the MCL regulations package to the Office of Administrative Law. And then this office approved the regulations and they took effect July 1st, 2014. Then 3 years later, the Superior Court of Sacramento County issued a judgment invalidating the hexavalent chromium MCL. The reasoning behind this was that the department failed to properly consider economic feasibility of complying with the MCL. So once it was repealed, the MCL for total chromium of 50 parts per billion has remained in place, and then that includes hexavalent chromium also. Next slide, please. So timeline for the new regulations. In April 2020, the State Water Board began the process to develop hexavalent chromium MCL. They published the white paper discussion on economic feasibility analysis in consideration of a hexavalent chromium maximum level. In the fall of 2020, they released preliminary treatment costs. So the board estimated that the total average annual cost of treatment per system to range very widely from $82,711 to over $15 million. And then this depends on the type and size of each water system. An environmental impact report was prepared in November of 2021. And then notice of proposed rulemaking and regulation draft was released just last month in June 2023. They are now accepting public comment until August 4th of 2023. And I do not plan to submit any comment on behalf of the agency, and I'll get into that further in the next two slides. So this new proposed regulation, it establishes a MCL of 10 parts per billion, which is the same one that they proposed in 2014. It establishes a detection limit for purposes of reporting of 0.1 parts per billion. And then water systems would be required to sample surface water annually and groundwater every 3 years. And then based on the system size, it gives them 2 to 4 years to comply with the MCL. So the State Water Board also proposes 3 treatment technologies as best available technologies in order to meet the MCL. These 3 are reduction, coagulation, filtration, ion exchange, and reverse osmosis. In addition to these 3, if there is water available, compliance can also be achieved through blending of sources. So what does this mean for Avek? So after they repealed the initial MCL in 2017, we continue to sample all our sites for hexavalent chromium. We already sample according to their proposed schedule in the rulemaking. So this would, we would acquire no additional costs for monitoring. None of our potable wells have ever exceeded the proposed MCL. Our potable wells range from 0.89 to 5.5 parts per billion, and then they have an average of 3.3 parts per billion, which is below half the MCL. Hexavalent chromium is regularly detected above the MCL at 2 of our ag wells, but these sites are not regulated by the state. We simply test these for our own information because we blend these wells with other water sources before they're being treated by Roseman Water Treatment Plant. Doing this ensures that hexavalent chromium concentrations in their plant effluent remain below the MCL. They have historically ranged from 2.7 to 7.2 parts per billion with an average of 5.1 parts per billion.
Now, do you think that's in those wells that's natural occurring or by another source?
I would have to look into the area. I'm not sure it is natural.
Yeah, we think it's
because I don't think there's really that much industrial processes out there. But
yeah, the wells that have those higher levels, that's from the what we call the Calandry wells, that were existing wells that we utilize as part of the purchase of the old Calandry property. And so chances are it's naturally occurring.
So that concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
I have one question. Is this what they were calling PFOS for?
No, it's a separate contaminant.
Oh.
That's going to be a whole nother thing.
Well, that's a whole separate. Oh.
But we're in good shape with PFOS.
Yes, we have tested our wells and they've come back non-detect. So far, they're always changing the detection limits. So, but as of now, we're good.
So we thought it'd be helpful just to provide an update of how this new rule impacts AVAC, because you'll probably hear things, how this is affecting more on the retail agency side. I know the LA County Water Works has a number of wells that are going to be impacted by this new rule coming up. And So they'll probably have to take some of their wells either offline or provide wellhead treatment to meet this MCL requirement.
Can that be treated at the well site?
Yeah, I can.
So do we see AVAC potentially selling more water due to these wells being contaminated?
I mean, that's the flip side, right? If LA County Waterworks, our largest retailer, has to take off reduced groundwater production, they're going to rely more on import water from AVAC. Or, like I said, provide wellhead treatment. So, thanks, Jordan.
Thank you.
Good job. So
Thank you.
the rest of the report, I'll turn over to Pete. He's going to give an update on the state water project and water supply or water reservoir level.
All right. Thank you, Matt. And good evening again. So this is just a chart that shows where the precipitation is at, and that blue line that terminates around between July and August is our current year. And you see it's an above average year for precipitation, and it's pretty much flatlined at this point. Go ahead and move it along.
Well, I mean, it wasn't
a verbal update.
Yeah, it wasn't too critical. I mean, as you can imagine, all the reservoirs are full. There's a lot of water in the system. Yeah. The other highlights are that DWR stopped offering Article 21 water. So this first notice that they've stopped it. So that's showing two things. Levels are stabilizing in the reservoirs and demand is up. So getting into the hot summer months, so increased demand. So no Article 21. You got the slides back. Good. Do you want to run through them, Pete?
Sure. So this shows San Luis Reservoir, and that blue line up at the top that's dipping down just below the total reservoir capacity is where San Luis Reservoir is at right now. So almost nearly full. We anticipate that will continue to drop over the next probably 2 months, but there's a good chance that start October, November, if we have any rain, it'll fill up again. And Article 21 could be offered again starting in October. So we may continue to spill within the calendar year. All right, next slide. As Matt mentioned, the Article 21 program, it ran for 14 weeks. It is currently terminated. But during that time, AVEC was able to yield 26,000 acre feet of Article 21. And like I just mentioned, that may not be over. We may be taking more before the end of the year. All right, next slide.
I think that's it. The only other thing I have to report is the repairs that John mentioned at the last meeting on the West Feeder are well underway, and we're on track to bring that on probably next week and a half. All the repairs will be made, so that's good news. Our staff and contractor got right on that, so things so far are going good. Plant flows are up. I think today's plant flow here at Quartz Hill Water Treatment Plant is 45 million gallons per day. It's been a number of years since we've seen flows that high. It's an indication that we're getting into the warmer season, and LA County Waterworks has definitely reduced the groundwater production. Last couple years they've relied heavily on groundwater production because of the low allocation year with the State Water Project. So we're seeing the flip side of that this year. We've got some bets going around as to how high the flow will get at Quartz Hill Water Treatment Plant, but we could see 55, maybe 60 million gallons per day in the peak summer months. So other than that, I don't have anything to report unless you have any questions.
Where's Orville at right now as far as their capacity?
It's pretty full. I think we might skip that one slide.
Yeah.
Go back a couple, maybe one more, or two more. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Yeah, and that's maxed out.
So you can
as
see the
well.
little blue diamond there. It's pretty much full.
We're likely to start next year with Oroville full, which adds to the increased chance of spill risk in San Luis.
Matt, what about our other treatment plants?
Other treatment plants. So Eastside Water Treatment Plant is running, remember, about 5 MGD. We're not using the Eastside Water Bank recovery wells at this time. We have plenty of state water projects, so we're flowing 100% on the plant. And then with the West feeder down for repairs, we're currently supplying the Roseman area, Mojave, Cal City, Edwards Air Force Base through the SNP system. So currently the Roseman plant is offline until those repairs are made.
We used to have a report, or at least a slide that goes a little more in detail. I haven't seen those lately.
Yeah, we can bring those back to show the plant flows from each of the facilities. So we'll have that next meeting.
Okay, is there anything further?
Nope, that's all I have.
It is the board have any questions?
All right, thank you.
Okay, very well. And director's reports, is there anything from the director?
Mr. President, I have a quick report on July 5th and 6th. I went to Sacramento to visit Senator Scott Wilk and also have the pleasure to meet with Assembly Member Tom Lackey and Assembly Member Juan Carrillo. About 3 months ago, we had Assembly Member Lackey and Senator Wilk to AVEC to give them kind of a preview on water and what legislation we were interested in. One of the bills we were interested in getting support on was SB 149, which was one of the governor's infrastructure bills that kind of expedited the CEQA process and in other issues. That bill was voted on July 5th on the Senate floor and was approved unanimously. Senator Wilk gave me the honor of having me introduced as an AVEC director there, watching that occur. So that was kind of a highlight of my year. But, and then the next day, and then that evening, I had dinner with Assembly Member Lackey, Assembly Member Carrillo, and Senator Wilk together, noting that, you know, we have 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat that are working really effectively together on a bipartisan basis to do good stuff for our valley. Assembly Member Carrillo and his chief of staff requested that we give them a water kind of preview here, and so we're working on getting the 2 of them here for that. But very supportive of our water issues. I also attended the Senate Judicial Committee. Is that how they say it? Judiciary Committee. And they were going over some PFAS bills, Gary, and regarding contaminants and other products and things. So it's a big issue up there, and it's coming. But anyway, just wanted to report to you that we did that. A lot of water talk up there, and we need to really work with our legislators here to have them involved and be aware of these bills.
Okay, the next item would be from our legal counsel attorney's report.
Nothing to report, President.
Okay. Any requests for future agenda items? Okay, we have a reason to go into closed session.
We do for one item. It's 13A.
Okay, we could have a motion for that.
Mr. President, I move we go into closed session.
We have a motion. And
I'll second.
a second. Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Drew Mercy. Frank Donato.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. The motion carried. Take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Closed session.
And just for the record, Director Mercy has to recuse himself from closed session item tonight.